Hello and welcome to the 15th annual BTI Market Outlook and Client Service Review. We're broadcasting today from just outside of Boston. We have a bright blue sky, just a little bit brisk, and it's a great day to share some outlook on what we can expect in 2024. We have a very large crowd today. We still have people getting on, but we're expecting somewhere right around 2,000 or 2,100, making this the largest of the 15 of these webinars we have presented. So thank you for joining us. We're pretty excited. Because of the size, we will be unable to take questions live, so please email your questions to btiwebinars@bticonsulting.com and we will be responding quickly. We're recording today's session. It will be available to everybody that is on today's session, as well as those who unfortunately had schedule changes and can't make it. Please tweet along with us today at hashtag BTI Outlook, and let's make it a little bit more exciting. I am Michael Reinowesser. I'm also known as the Mad Clientist, which is where I blog weekly on Thursdays at about 7 a.m. It should hit your inbox. As most of you, I hopefully know, I've been doing this for a very long time. And we at BTI really look forward to this annual webinar. Just before I jump into the data, I wanted to say a thank you to Joy Harnois for helping to put all this together and being right next to me to make this happen. To Jennifer Marcus, who's right there pushing this along and making sure that this all makes sense. And Joyce Michelli, who I know is listening, is our lead interviewer and makes a point of reaching out to me when we do this webinar to make sure I have the absolute latest insights and unsaid and unpublished things that clients are telling her, so we can bring you the most dynamic and the most up-to-date kind of outlook for where we are and what we're doing. So with that, what I'd like to do is I would like to start with corporate counsel, which is really one of course, the big drivers and where we spend a lot of our time. But for those of you that might remember, 2020, when the pandemic was kind of in its prime, everybody was surprised that the job satisfaction levels of corporate counsel, those that were really, really happy, soared to 54%. It went way up, and it was because they really felt like they were being intellectually challenged. They were helping their staffs. They could see themselves making an impact. And that was really kind of a peak satisfaction point for them. As the pandemic and life rolled on, you can see it jumped from 54% all the way down to 39, and then it hit a low of 32 as all of a sudden the peak workloads and all the questions and the day-to-day firefighting really took its toll. Not to mention 2022 was also peak turnover for law firms and for in-house counsel. So you had a lot of things dragging clients down. So what happened in 2023 that would make it jump back up almost by a third to 44% saying their job satisfaction is awesome? Well, a couple of things have happened. And what I'm going to talk about really is 5 drivers, but I'm going to talk about one specifically first. And that is, so many corporate counsel believe that they are now playing a transformative role in their company. And it's important to think about exactly what that means. Companies are going through big fundamental changes. You could see it from the announcement they make. You could see it from the layoffs that they're making. They're changing the role of the corporate counsel, and they are adopting technology, the AI, the list goes on. But if you're a corporate counsel and you are playing a role in trying to figure out how to get to this new transformative state for your company, this is very exciting. It's an intellectual challenge. It's something that they haven't seen before, and they're really excited about the work that they're doing. Now, that's great, but let's just put this into a little bit more perspective. Depending on the survey you want to look at, we looked at McKinsey, BCG, the Conference Board, and about 12 other different surveys. And no matter how you look at it, if you want to be conservative, 83% of companies are going through some kind of fundamental transformation. This means that they are changing their business model, they're changing their fundamental organizational structures, they're adopting technology, not necessarily the generative AI, but just they're digitizing, they're going online. I mean, I don't know how many people read the other day that Eli Lilly will now be selling their weight loss drug direct to consumer through telehealth. So there's all kinds of things going on in the world, whether it be lab-grown chicken, whether it be new ways to offer banking services. We could go on and on. The point is that 83% are going through this transformation. 67% of corporate counsel tell us that they are playing a fundamental and measurable role in the transformation. Some are leading it from the legal side, some are helping to drive it and being key players, but this is the kind of fundamental driver of why corporate counsel satisfaction is so much higher and why they're liking their job so much. Now, it's important just for me to state the obvious, which is it is in your interest as outside counsel for your clients to be happy because they're going to stay in their role longer. There probably means that when they have more impact, they have more strategic thinking, that they are going to ask you more intellectually challenging questions for yourselves. And also, the rate pressure is substantially less than when you're doing the commodity work or when you're doing the day-to-day firefighting work. This is something where they're really seeking the kind of counsel and challenges and direction that so many attorneys go to law school to be able to participate in. So this is really an exciting driver for most outside counsel. And this helps explain why that 56% of clients, that area that is right in here, are actually increasing their spending. 30% are holding it the same. So you've only got 14% or so that are cutting. So these folks are sitting and saying the transformative goal is more important than saving money on the budget right now. It may not last forever, but it's certainly going to last for today. It's certainly going to last, in the short term, because these are strategic initiatives. And no matter what companies go through, when they have announced these plans, if they're public, they've announced these plans to their shareholders, and they're not going to not deliver to their shareholders for a whole litany of reasons, not the least of which is to protect their stock price and not bring in the class action suits and securities suits. But they also, this is impacting virtually every company that does business with these companies that are going through this transformation. So if you're a small to mid-sized firm or a larger firm with mid-sized clients, they are just as compelled to seek out the advice because they're on the other side of these changes. What are the contracts going to look like? What are the agreements going to look like? What technology can we use, can't we use? What does it mean if we use our clients' access or our customers' access? All these things are affecting every size clients of substance and holding spending up for virtually every size law firm, which again, this is, you've got increasers, which is 56%, roughly, I think that's 4 times the number that are cutting. So that's one of the reasons, and the primary reason why we're seeing such resilient spending in the marketplace, and starts to give us clues as to why there may be less rate pressure than there has been in the past. Now, when I said before, I want to get back to clients, there's 5 reasons GCs are happy. We talked about the transformative role, and we're going to talk about it again, but they feel like they're being strategic. They're no longer doing the project management kinds of things. They're making an impact. They feel challenged. But here's one that I think is important for both corporate counsel and the the outside counsel that are on this call, because they see opportunity. We've been doing this survey for 24 years now, and over the last 2 years, this is the largest number of corporate counsel that we have ever seen that said, you know what, my next career move is into the business units. I want to run a business. I want to be able to help drive what it is we do as an organization, or maybe even do it at another organization, but they see themselves moving up. And that's really important for everyone on this call, because if you can be attached to your client as they start to move up, as they make an impact, as they seize the opportunity, they will take you with them. That requires a good relationship, excellent client service, meeting all their demands, but the reward is pretty high. And this is how clients for life get developed. If you can help clients with these very significant, important strategic changes where the results are clearly tangible, then you have just created a client that will want to work with you for as long as they're working. And you can see clients out there now who are feeling that way. And hopefully some of the things we're going to talk about today will get you to that point. So this is kind of the overlying substrate of the market. And what this has done is it's created 5 kind of new drivers, which have been out there in different ways, but weren't really at the forefront. And now they're right at the forefront. The first emerging driver is they want outside counsel to be a source of new ideas. They want to, they're sitting there trying to figure out how to drive transformation. And what they need is the ideas, the fodder, the firepower to move it forward. That's going to come from new ways of thinking, or additive thinking, or improving the thinking they have. It's not going to come from cutting rates, certainly, and it's not going to come from issuing RFPs. It's going to come from having the individuals you work with, maybe the firms, share ideas that can help you as an outside counsel, as a corporate counsel, shape your thinking. That's number one and at the top of the list. I like to say a really good new idea is worth 1,000 wins in court, because that's what they're going to remember. Very few law firms come in with new ideas, and I'm going to show you some statistics on that in a minute, but a lot of firms come in talking about how they win. Bring one idea, you've just differentiated yourself. 2, new and creative interpretations of laws and regulations. If you have a company that has any kind of regulation, which is virtually everyone, you've got to help clients find the exemptions, find the ways to work around what they're doing. They are looking for the regulations as a tool as opposed to an obstacle. How can they look at the regulations and say, if we interpret it this way, or if we tweak it just a little bit, we can go ahead and overcome this obstacle and get a lead in our clients. You're finding this especially in financial services, as everybody is trying to figure out what crypto is, as you have new players in fintech, you have it in health tech, you have it in food and agri-tech. There's all these regulations, and if you are the individual or the organization that helps them use these interpretations to get into the marketplace, but it's not just getting into the marketplace. I had a corporate counsel, a general counsel of a very large company, singing the praises of a regulatory specialist because of this individual's immersive knowledge. They figured out how they could clear one of the hurdles that was laid out by the regulatory agency. Creative interpretation. This is kind of the new dialogue clients want to hear when they're thinking through how they want to do something. 3, tech savvy. We can argue all day whether tech savvy helps and works and how good you are at it, but clients think that it helps, and it's going to be very difficult to change that perception. So the more you can put your tech savvy in front, the more it is going to give confidence and improve the kind of branding of your organization with clients. So many law firms have tech and they have tech savvy, but their clients just don't know about it. It's internal, and clients say that's fine, but they want to know that you're investing the same way they are. So what it does is, by being a tech savvy law firm, you have now been able to place a cultural kind of affinity with your client. If clients think you're not tech savvy, well, maybe that kind of divide between the cultures is bigger than they thought. So it's about the technology, but it's as much as how you're perceived. And if you're perceived as not making the investments they are, certainly they're going to be different, but they want to see the enthusiasm. They want to see the strategic commitment to know that they're working with a firm that is on the same wavelength as to eventually where they're headed. 4, a cousin to number 1, brand new strategies that I haven't seen before. They want completely new ways of thinking. And that's different than just a new idea, because if you get a new idea, the first thing I would do if I had a new idea is I would say, what other clients can I share this with? But many cases you can develop these brand new ideas that haven't been seen before with clients, because they have kind of the working knowledge and might know how to push a few buttons with you. And also, by definition, the company's going through transformative change. They, by definition, have not seen these things before. If this is especially true in the generative AI organizations, both the startups and the mega tech companies and everything in between, new and interesting and novel therapies. You're seeing it with the use of financial services and new ways of interpreting things. I mean, if you want to look at it, you could take a source of new ideas, creative interpretations, and ideas I haven't seen before. And just yesterday, the SEC approved the spot Bitcoin ETFs. Well, if somebody didn't have the moxie and the idea and the creative interpretations, well, these might not have happened, but yesterday an industry or a subcategory of an industry was created. So this takes a lot of brainstorming with clients, and clients love this kind of brainstorming. And to be able to do it is another form of not only intellectual reward, but it provides the business development and the glue to bring clients where they want to be and make sure they take you with them. Now, I said there's 5 emerging drivers. That's 4. I'm going to ask for your patience because I'm going to go over number 5 in a few minutes. But first, what I want to do is share with you the importance and the value of ideas. We ask clients if their law firms were a excellent source of ideas, whether they be new or ideas you can work on. And you can see 18.8% said they're excellent, they're outstanding. 25% said yeah, they're pretty good, they're not bad. But 56%, over half, said kind of unusual. We don't really look to them for ideas. We don't expect them, and we generally don't get them. To be able to go in to a place where, roughly 18% are really, really good at this, 25% are okay at it, I'll bet you every law firm on this call can sit down and in a period of 20 minutes come up with some really excellent ideas for clients. But it takes the dedication, it takes the commitment, it takes the time allocation, it takes a little bit of technique, but this is a wide open field. And if you want to make your rates go away from any discussion about getting hired, throw a new and interesting idea out there, because that is what clients will remember. When I talk to clients, and I've been talking to them for a very, very, very long time, they will always remember the firm that gave them a good idea. They couldn't tell you what the rates, what the win rates, where they've won, who they know, but they remember the idea. That was the anchor. And if you can lead with the anchor and lead with the idea, you've just separated yourself and made clients want to listen to your pitch instead of sitting there wondering when it's going to be over before it starts. Now, This paucity of good ideas is driving changes in how clients are thinking about their law firm panels. And for those of you who were around in the 2013, 2014 timeframe, it was very draconian back then when clients would say, we're going to chop our law firm panel in half. We want a mammoth response to our RFP, and we're going to have a dog and pony show, and we'll see who shows and ends up at the end. Well, those days are over. Right now, clients are slowly reducing the number of RFPs. The clients who said they're going to rely on them are down by over half. That doesn't mean that your proposals are going to go away or your requests for proposals are going to go away. But what it means is they have less influence. They means that clients, while they may issue one, are also cherry picking. They are listening very carefully to the law firms with whom they work, to the partners with whom they work, and they're much more inclined to ask questions. And they're seemingly innocuous because they may be calling their relationship partner from a firm and saying, so, what's your observation about this new event? Or what's your thinking on how to manage around generative AI? Well, these aren't idle curiosity questions. These are part of the new hiring process. This is when clients are trying to figure out who's got the knowledge, who's got the ideas, who's going to be invested in helping them drive change. And what I'm telling our clients is to start telling their partners that every single call they get from a client is a business development call. You don't know when they're going to ask the question. You don't know why or how, but be ready because they're not announcing it. The only good thing about RFPs maybe is they get announced, so you know you're in the mix somewhere. But the cherry picking approach is much more subtle in the eyes of the client. Now, this is resulting in what I'm calling a quiet convergence. Clients are slowly kind of letting law firms just kind of attrit away. And what they're doing is once a matter kind of rolls up, it don't hear from the law firm, and then we don't work with them anymore. And they're slowly using a smaller number of law firms. The numbers look kind of like this. Last year when we talked to you is the gray at the bottom. So that would be along here. This is what they're working with now. So you can see they went from 4 primary down to 3. Before the pandemic, this number was 2. We expect them to go back to 2. The secondary firms who are doing serious work but haven't reached the primary status, they're still building the relationship. You can see is down by 4 firms. You can see another 7 firms that were dropped here. So the total went from 56 last year, which is totally unmanageable, to 44%, and to 44 firms. If you look at that from a percentage basis, that's about 21%. So that's a pretty big reduction in my mind. But the other thing that's really important is out of the 56 firms used, about 44 firms used, and especially in the secondary and substantive, this is just for the small and medium-sized firms who are on the session today, because I know there's a lot of them. 58% of these clients are using small and medium-sized firms for this work. It's not 100, but 58% is pretty good. It's a key role. And what's interesting is one of the side comments we often get is they're getting clients, that is, are getting very good ideas from small and mid-sized firms as well. And some of them made comments how smaller and mid-sized firms will sometimes come in and say, we're just as good, but we charge less. But what they'd rather hear is, hey, we have really good ideas. And many times as a smaller firm, that will get amplified. because expectations and what you're going to be bringing. If you can lead with that as a small and mid-sized firm, that is going to redefine how that client thinks about you and probably open you up to larger swaths of work. Because if you can bring an idea once, experience says that you could probably bring it all again on another matter, which is something that, of course, they're trying to do with almost all their matters at this point. Now, we just saw there's going to be a 21% drop in Counsel, but we've got roughly, we'll call that a 5% increase in outside counsel spending. So this directly is a result of those 56% of clients who said they're increasing their spending. Their increases are big enough where it's offsetting those that are holding it the same and the 14% that are cutting. So you have more money going to a smaller number of firms. That means that there's going to be firms that take a hit. They are going to probably be surprised that their revenue is going down. They're not as close to their clients. They're not sharing the ideas. And there's going to be another group of firms that can capture this increased spending. There will be more budget available to the fewer firms that remain, which is a nice formula. If you can figure out how to get yourself in that, then you're going to see your firm growing probably faster than the market because of the disproportionate allocation. The 21% of firms that are going to get dropped have no chance of getting all this new work. So we see opportunity, and we're fairly optimistic about 2024, as most of you have probably seen. Now, let's talk about where and how this money is going to be spent. This is the BTI practice roadmap. We've been sharing one of these with you for 15 years. If you look at it, each circle represents a practice area. The number in parentheses is the projected growth for 2024 based on input from more than 300 corporate counsel. And what you've got is along the left is growth, and this is rate pressure. So the closer you go here, the more rate pressure, rather the less rate pressure. This way is more rate pressure. If you're above this line right here, that means the practice is growing. So for the third year in a row, actually second year in a row, we are seeing every major practice going to experience growth. You can attribute a lot of this to the transformative strategies that clients are undergoing. This again is another look at the resilience and the commitment that clients have made to being able to drive the legal needs to support where they want to be heading strategically. So this is the underlying kind of fabric of the marketplace. It's where the strength is coming from, and some will grow faster than others, and I'm going to walk through a few of these with you on an individual basis. What I'd like to do is start with employment. I was just talking early this morning before I got on a call, before the webinar today. A corporate counsel described employment regulations as nothing short of a fire hose. This is a place where there are just so many regulations. There are so many needs and changes that it's really changing the way clients think about their approach. What it takes to win the business is that right now clients want what they're describing as the firms that can come in and give quick practical advice, because what's happening is you've got layoffs, you've got hybrid work, you're hiring new people, you're trying to execute a transformation, and CEOs are calling and saying, what does this mean? What's the impact? What do we do? They don't have weeks to respond. In some cases, they don't have days to respond. So those that can respond with that quick practical advice are the ones that are most likely to get the business. It's easier to respond with that quick practical advice if you have an understanding of the client, so staying in touch with your ongoing client, and also the industry specific nature of the impact. So they're looking for quick practical advice, and they're looking for the industry specific impact because it's impacting every company different. When we talked to you last year, one of the big things was clients wanted kind of advance notice of what the regulations were going to be. They still want that, but right now, practical advice, industry specific is kind of the mantra. If you can get your attorneys to talk to your clients about that, well, then you're likely ahead of everybody else, especially if yours is the one that makes that first call. So opportunity to talk about risk, what comes with the layoffs they're going to have, and are all fertile ground. I think that every day for the last at least 14 business days, some major company has announced a layoff. So watch the trend to continue. If your client hasn't announced the layoff yet, ask them if they're going to and advise them on what it is they ought to do. Now, what I'd like to do is switch over to M&A. This is really, we think that's going to show some life. It's driving the transformation process because when you make an acquisition, it often will change the fundamental nature of your organization, especially if it's large. You're seeing them in healthcare, you're seeing them in energy. We're getting to the point where the transformation and strategic need is starting to become large enough where companies are thinking they'll take on the headwinds, they'll take on the financial market risk that comes with it. So we'll probably see the increase will likely come, and this is an important kind of point in this marketplace. It is 50% or so smaller acquisitions which do not have virtually any regulatory scrutiny, and then you've got the large M&A, which are subject to a lot of public and government scrutiny, and the smaller acquisitions are still going to keep going at a record pace. But the larger acquisitions will be able to, kind of pick up speed, and you're going to see them probably industry specific, and they'll change industries a little bit throughout the year, and that'll be, encouraging because it's going to make companies feel better about making bolder moves and the other things that they're doing. So it kind of loosens up the whole risk profile for everybody else. Now, moving on to regulatory, this is a place where for the second time I heard the word clients want somebody with immersive knowledge. There are individuals out there who just live and breathe certain regulations. They could be in tech, they could be in export controls, they could be in labor, they could be in hospitality, they could be in liquor and beverages. But there are people who know this like the back of their hand. They have encyclopedic knowledge. Clients want access to these kind of knowledge sources to be able to understand the regulatory frameworks. They're quite happy if you bring in someone as co-counsel. They don't want people learning on the job here. What they want is somebody who can sit down and knows how to find first the exceptions and exemptions, and then second, the workarounds. Clients expect you to bring in kind of a network and knowing how to work through the agencies themselves. It's that strategy piece. It's that, how do I work around it? How do I even use these regulations as my source of advantage that somebody else hasn't figured out yet? So again, we get back to the ideas. If you're looking for regulatory work, knowing the regs well enough to be able to talk about how to twist, turn them, how to re-understand them, how to reframe them to help clients get where they want to go. Now, moving on, we're going to take a look at class actions. Again, a growth category. You're seeing an increase in class actions as, any kind of labor invites a class action, social media, cybersecurity, but you're also seeing a tremendously aggressive plaintiff's bar And when this is changing the way clients want to think about hiring law firms. They're now asking themselves two questions. They used to want just early risk assessment, and they wanted to know what you were going to be thinking about. Now what they want to know is they certainly want the early risk assessment, but they will tell you they have a large caseload of what they would call unmerited or baseless claims, and they want to know how many they have, if they're facing one, and how to get rid of it. There's no risk assessment there. This is a how do you just turn the switch off? How do you get rid of it? What are the fees? And make it go away. The other thing we're seeing is clients are really looking for much more aggressive strategies from their outside counsel. They want to hit these class actions head on. I think spending is up by the average matter over the last 3 years has gone up in fees by about 13 to 17%. So they're spending a lot of money, and they really want the law firms that can show a level of aggressiveness in going after the defense or come up with some other strategy. But they're looking, they don't want to sit back. They don't want equivocality. The more you can show that you're going to come at this and you're going to come at it strong and hard right out of the gate is going to be what separates you from everybody else and what everybody else is kind of talking about in order to get hired. IP litigation. This has changed dramatically over the years that we have been following it. Right now, what clients tell us is, one, whoever helps us with IP litigation has to understand the impact of the business. So many of these IP litigation claims, even in the early stages, have enormous impact on the transformative strategies, on the potential revenue streams, on product development, on cost structures, and they want to make sure that whoever they work with understands that. It's not just another IP litigation. It is critical, it is mission critical, it sits at the centerpiece of so many of their strategies and what clients want to do. At the same time, small and medium-sized clients are facing the same issues because they're getting hit with so many claims that they are interfering or they are treading on other people's IP. In some cases, they think that may be true. In other cases, they think that it may not be true, but they want that same understanding. And for about the 5th year in a row, clients have become dogmatic. They want firms who want to win. They do not want to settle. They do not want to compromise. They do not want to find the soft stroke. They want to beat the other side. It's almost as if it's very personal. So bringing your kind of commitment and knowing how to be aggressive, like on the class action side, is really going to help you differentiate yourself as you look to pitch this kind of business. Then we'll move on to commercial litigation. This is the largest single segment. It is, in some ways, it's got the most kind of subparts. Right now, we're estimating about 60 to 65% of the money being spent here is for complex and high-stake matters. So they're not bet the company, but they are big, they're important, they have implications beyond just money. If you want to be able to get this kind of work, early assessment is, in first order. Then what you've got is kind of these situations where clients are seeing new and more novel matters. So this again ties back to the transformative, right? Because what they're seeing is, okay, they're using social media in ways they haven't. They're going direct to consumer in ways that they perhaps have never ever gone before. You've got generative AI in enough use to be able to start attracting litigation. You've got resourcing issues as companies try to redefine their supply chains, resource, or relocate. They have to renegotiate contracts that they've never renegotiated and face new location and new restrictions in the United States if they're reshoring, face all the taxes, face all the issues that come with that. Or if they're moving around the world, what's going to be happening in those different countries. But all that usually impacts not just the large companies, but all the small and mid-sized companies that sit in that supply chain. So this is a lot of money, a lot of litigation, a lot of new litigation. And if you want to get their attention, the more you can walk in the door and the first words out of your mouth about are kind of the state of whatever kind of matter they're facing, whether it's social media, generative AI, false claims, resourcing, new supply chain. What are the top 3 issues that companies face in litigation related to this? The more knowledge you can impart, you are going to stand out much more than any track record might, because clients can build off of your ideas that you offer. And again, going back to the centerpiece of what we said in the beginning, this is where clients are putting so much of their effort. So we're seeing a lot of opportunity. We're seeing, I should mention here that right now, commercial litigation especially, but across the board, clients are more open to hiring law firms that whom they haven't worked before. So when you've got a big segment like commercial litigation, coming in with a new idea is a really good way to kind of, they may have a perception of your firm, but the minute you start talking about ideas that teach them how to do what they need to do, it changes you from law firm to advisor. And that's the conversation that wins work and gets you the kind of rates that you want to be getting. So let's look at this one more way. This is the BTI, we call it the hotspots, but technical name is the industry spending matrix. And what happens is we lay all this out. You can see if you come down here, these are the industries, these are the practices. Any place you see one of these blue boxes, that is where the most acute need is. That is where the highest rates are being paid. And that's where, there's a lot of emphasis on hiring on a sole source basis. In some ways, you can look at this and say the columns, or the rows rather, with the blue, the most of the blue and the hotspots are the ones that are going through the transformation. You've got high tech with 12 needs, hotspots. You've got pharma with 11, healthcare with 10, food, agritech with 8, consumer goods with 8, banking with 7, insurance with 7, transportation has 6. So there's 4, 6, 7, 8 industries which are major spenders that are having, acute needs, acute help, paying premium rates. So the way we always counsel our clients to use this is you can look at this and say, where exactly are our clients, which industries, where practices that we're strong or where we want to be, or our clients have needs, and we target those with our business development strategies, client-specific strategies, strategic account management strategies. But this will give you kind of the roadmap to where and how the opportunities are. High tech, pharma are 2 of the 3 largest spending industries. Financial services is, I believe, number 1 or 2. So not only do these industries have a lot of needs and acute needs, but they also are very big spenders. There's a lot of money going out to law firms just in those 8 industries alone, but every industry offers its own opportunity. So I promised you 5 emerging drivers. I'd like to get to the use of generative AI, because this is where so much of client thinking is, and so much of law firm thinking is. When you look at it, and what you see is what you see is basically that clients are 71% of clients expect law firm adoption. They expect you to be using it in a way that will help them and will help streamline things. 56% say even though it's going to be adopted, it will not impact billable hours. How could that be? Well, first, clients say matters are just getting bigger and more complex. And therefore, what's happening is the AI is just going to help to work that down. It'll make it easier and more affordable to do even the bigger and the more complex matters. 71% that expect their law firm adoption. One of the things we've seen is a lot of law firms, especially law firm leaders, don't want to talk about how they're going to use generative AI because it is still fraught with risk. It still hallucinates. It's not reliable for sourcing. But what clients are saying is you can use it for low-level work. You can use it to write emails. You can use it for correspondence. They aspire and see a day where perhaps they could use it for regulatory filings, but they want to see their law firms working towards adoption. And very few clients know exactly what their law firms are doing. So that's going to be kind of a challenge to make sure that we walk that line, or walk the line that so many law firm leaders want to walk, which is we're using it, but one has to be, careful in how it gets used. And that's going to be one of the challenges as we move forward. As you look at it, 52% of corporate counsel are using AI themselves. This is going to grow, but this was at the time of the survey. Some companies have a ban on it, not too many, but that's kind of decreasing. But if they're using it, the chances are the more they use it, the more opinions they're going to have about how their law firms ought to be using it. 65% of those that said they're using it find it helpful. 35% said not so much, but that's 2/3. 2/3 is pretty good. Sometimes it doesn't get higher than 2/3. So your clients are inclined to think it's going to be helpful. They are inclined to think that law firms are going to use it. If law firms don't talk about it, if you're not talking about it to your client, you may be categorized as one of those firms that isn't using it. And even the firms that have announced tools and have announced the things that they're going to be doing, that message doesn't get through to clients. It gets through to other law firms, but it doesn't get through to clients. So this is an area that we're going to need to work on. I think that, one of the other things that's really important is all these drivers we've talked about today are kind of redefining how clients are thinking about law firms, and they are starting to hire the firms that, of course, can meet these new drivers and meet these new demands. So once we saw that, we went out and we started asking a lot of top legal decision makers which were the law firms that were the most likely to be on the leading edge of all this. Who is going to be ready for whatever's next? And that's not just technology or transformation, but the next black swan. Who's going to be prepared? The other thing we did at BTI is that we created, based on our research, a new approach to business development. We call it the purple dot strategy, and maybe another time I'll give you the history of that, but we have a couple of clients that were very successful with the purple dot strategy, so that became associated with this. But to make a long story short, to look in the upper right, the activities that create inbound leads and close new business are anticipating needs, creating solutions with clients, innovation, ideas and ideation, education, and then a little over to the left, being a super listener, having ongoing dialogue, and then, of course, something that's always been there, if you're referred in by a peer and you know how to network others together. If you can master these, which most attorneys actually are quite good at this, you will not have to worry about pipelines. You will be creating inbound leads. You'll be creating client retention and more intellectual talent, more intellectual reward for the attorneys. So we're pretty excited. We've run a few betas with clients on this with great success. We do have a couple of beta slots left. So this is something that you're interested in presenting to your team on a beta basis. Please reach out to me and be happy to discuss. So we'll be having more about this as well. And then what I'd like to do is leave you with a couple of recommendations. One is pinpoint clients and active transformation. Virtually every client that is in transformation has made an announcement about it, or you can tell if they've had layoffs or made a major change in technology. If they're public, they have disclosed it, probably not just in their 10K, but their 8K. They may have taken a charge against earnings. That's something to look out as well. And also, you can read about it in newspapers, competitive intelligence. And if you have a client in active transformation, the chances are everyone they do business with will be in active transformation. Next time you pitch, add one specific idea, client-specific idea to your standard pitch. I know that I can't get you to drop the standard pitch, which has all the wins and all the cases that you have done and the value of your transactions, but put one client-specific idea in the front of your pitch, and it will make it so much different, and they'll receive everything else you say so differently. Create an idea generator loop within your firm. Way back, going back 30, 40 years, law firms used to have lunches 2, 3, 4 times a week to discuss their cases. That has largely gone by the wayside, but there are other ways you can create idea loops. We wrote a blog post on it a few months ago, so we can make that available to you as well. But the firms that have started this are getting more traction with their clients because they're able to go out with their ideas. Celebrate your use of generative AI. Whatever you're doing, tell clients, don't commit if you're uncomfortable as a firm committing and saying what the results are, but let them know that you are using it. And then finally, ask clients about their transformation plans. What are they doing? What changes are they making? What kind of challenges have been put forth in front of your corporate counsel client? Couple hints. If they have layoffs, if they're talking about technology adoption, if they had a charge to earnings, if they're generating or developing generative AI tools, they are in transformation mode, and how can you help? In short, we see a lot of opportunity. We see a lot of strength in the marketplace because of this whole transformative drive. We think it's one of the best opportunities that we've seen in years, and we certainly wish everybody a lot of luck in moving ahead and capturing this kind of business. I'm happy to discuss this. Certainly our client feedback programs, our business development programs, our reports, and what this might mean for your firm. So please reach out at, you can see my email there, or info@bticonsulting.com. And it is 1 o'clock, so we're very excited because we broke another record in attendance today. So thank you for joining me. We have these reports, all the data you saw today came all from our reports. So you can find them in these different places on the web. And thank you so much for joining us today.